that something we are integrating, like something we are making, bringing together or uniting two or more than things. Either you can say uniting of culture, economics, or regions. So this is what, in general sense, integration means here. So now we understand what is economic integration. So basically, we know what the term integration means. It's nothing but unifying or uniting two or more things or bringing together two or more things. So similarly, in the economic sense, we tend to refer that the countries which are coming and forming groups, uh, whereas countries are forming the groups here, and where they establish the businesses here, and they where the business people can sell their products and services to the consumers in whatever the particular region they are doing the business there. So let us understand the international economic cooperation and its meaning here. So basically, when we tend to see this, the development that has meant for the varied economic and the scientific, as well as there are technological relationships which are between the individual countries and among countries, between the development that is been there with the countries of other groups, based on the principles of equality and the interdependence that they have, and what is known as called a mutual advantage. So this is what meant as the international economic cooperation here. So let us understand what is international economic cooperation in a deep sense. In the first sense, we see this is increased global interdependence. So what is this? Global interdependence is not a new phenomenon. It's not a new one. It's the old one that has been going on since from a long time. So there are some of the factors. So in the recent decades, it has been got a high acceleration in the recent decades. So there are like few factors, few important factors that have contributed for this global interdependence. So what are those factors are here is the trade here. Okay, so the capital mobility. So capital mobility is nothing but how with the ease you are investing in one particular country or without the trade barriers there. And the factors that have contributed here are increased labor mobility also, and hence the improved technology. These are the factors that have contributed for the increasing of the global interdependence here. And also, we tend to observe that the freedom of trade here. So, this freedom of trade, which has been promoted by the organizations like World Trade Organization, WTO. So, this has actually resulted with this World Trade Organization, it has resulted for the free trade, which has removed the barriers between the countries. As such, we are having a free trade between the one country and the another country. They are simultaneously removing barriers and with a ease to carry on their trade. This WTO has promoted the freedom of trade here. So similarly, we tend to see there have been improvements in the communications by how in the today's technology we see there is technology, there is mobile technology and the internet also that has allowed for a greater communication here. Okay. Next, we tend to see what are the more motivations. What is motivating for the integration here? Firstly, it is saying that those factors of productions. So there are improvements in the factors of productions that is motivating for the integration here, such as like services and transports and communication. So what happened? This has actually reduced the cost of factors of production here. With such transport and the communication and the technology that has been improved these days has been making the cost very less here. Nextly, we tend to see the societies and the individuals that have taken advantages of those opportunities. So that the opportunities which have been let's say provided for the cost of factors of production by the declining. So there is a reduce in the cost of reduce of the cost of factors of production here, which has been provided by the decrease or a declining that has made the advantages of opportunities for the production, transport, and the communication. Hence, it is making a motivation for the integration. Thirdly, when we see the public policies, yes, one country's public policies have also significantly making that such area, such space significantly improved with the character of so-called this economic integration. Okay, although not, it has not always went in a direction of increasing it in a straight direction. So now where we tend to see the types of integration here. So there are like five types of integration we tend to observe here. One is such free trade area, next is custom union, next is common market, next is European Union, which is single market, and the political union. We'll just discuss one by one, about what is free trade and what are this custom union and what is common market and what is economic union and what is political union. So first of all, what do we understand by the free trade here? So basically, when we see this uh, free trade is nothing but making the trade little free. So you can easily go and you can easily do the trades in whatever country that is giving that opportunity for the new markets here. So this is created because of the agreements between the two or more countries here, so that they can have this economic cooperation among those two countries, and they have come to an agreement on each others in the terms of trading here. Okay, so that's what it has resulted in the new markets, and it has also invited for the new investments, and hence with this new markets and the new investments there has been an increase in the GDP here as such. So what happens in this free trade agreement, the parties whatever they are there, so they identify the tariffs and the duties. Tariffs are nothing but the taxes and the duties that should be imposed on the member states, what kind of tariff it should be imposed on the member state, member countries with regards to what to the how much exports we are doing and how much imports we are doing here. Examples of this free trade area are the NAFTA, United States, Switzerland, and the Mexico. Let us see the advantages. What are the advantages here? Increased economic growth, because it has, as such, we have a free trade agreements that is simultaneously it is increasing the economic growth of the member states, because we are free to do the trade, and hence with the trade there is a business that is happening, and hence it is increasing the growth of the economy of the member states here. Next, it's a more dynamic business climate. Why is it so? In this free trade area, what happens is both industries and the businesses, they actually, when they come into one space, they will be having a lot of competition, because there are more industries and there are more businesses. So there are different kind of products they tend to bring up in the market here, and hence there will be a lot of competition, and hence this gives, as a result of such, it comes and gives a good business practices, and it is globally competitive here. And next advantage we tend to see is the foreign direct investment here. With this foreign direct investment, what happens, as we are free trade areas, it is giving a financial boost so to the domestic businesses, to the country which is the domestic, to the within the country's businesses, it is giving a good boost there, and it is also helping the local industries for their development here. Next is the technology transfer. Obviously, when we are having a free trade area between the uh, both the parties or number of countries, obviously there will be a technology transfer from one country to the another country. These multinational partners actually they are provide these local companies the technologies which are badly required by them, because one country may have that country have the technology, one country might not have the technology. So it could be accompanied by those multinational partners who are building their businesses in the another countries here. As such, what happens when they are when there is a technology transfer, this local economies grows, and so that it provides the business opportunities in that local country itself, and hence it is helping in the growth development. What are the disadvantages? So when we tend to see increase the job outsourcing, what they do is uh, this job outsourcing it happens because there is one company from the one country, it is expanding its business to the another country. So where this, what happens, the cost of production will be basically less, and what happens, the person along with them goes to that another country and they just have their business opportunity along with them. Next is the theft of intellectual property. So this corporations or whatever the businesses, they function in another countries and they have their own ideas and they have their own innovations, which can result in the theft or the can be stolen by the local industry. They can copy such ideas in their if one product is there, the local industry can copy the same product in the market here. Next is crowd out domestic industries. So what happens? These industries from these developed countries, they actually enter into the markets and they actually destroy the domestic industry because of the big technology that they have here. Next disadvantage is poor working conditions because these multinational companies they actually outsource the people and they make those jobs and they also provide whatever that is required for the conditions, and in such high tiresome jobs, they have to work here. They have to go beyond their working hours and they tend to become, the workers may tend to become tired and hence making it a grueling factory jobs for the workers there. Next is the degradation of natural resources. As such, we are doing a free trade area here. What happens? Most of the emerging market economies, they do not have this proper environmental protections. So, as a result of such, this corporations that are coming from the developed countries, they actually take advantage from such things and they may mislead or they may can um, ruthlessly they can exploit the natural resources, including those minerals, including those forest wealth, whatever the natural resources that they have in another country. So next we have the custom union. So this custom union is again a agreement which is created by the two or more countries within the neighborhood, the surrounding of one country. So the objective is here so that they can do away with the trade barriers and they can abolish and they can also reduce those custom duties within that, and they can also eliminate the quotas that are in the trade related aspects here. So when we tend to see this custom union, there will be a common tariff for say A and B country. So they'll having this A and B countries will have a common tariff that is to be imposed on the goods and they have to be imported from the non-member states here. So this because A and B are the member states, C is the non-member state. So they mutually they have a common external tariff within themselves. So this non-member states they have to make a single payment, a duty fee, which they have to trade within the member states between this A and the B custom union here, so that they can trade freely, so that there will be no added tariffs once they are inside this custom union. So the main purpose of this custom union was to enable this member state trade freely with another one. And they can also make this economic cooperation among those member states. So it is making the seamless trade, removing all those whatever the barriers that are there within them. However, when we see this member states, actually they do not enjoy this luxury because of their own trade deals that are there in their custom unions. So they have to alter economic policies for the gain, for maximize how much more they can do. They have to maximize those economic policies for from the maximizing their gains so that they can have this membership in the union here. So what are the advantages of custom unions is it gives us increase in the economic integration and the trade flow because as it is enabling the creation of goods and the services to the customer here and it creates the trade creation. As such, you are a part of this custom union, you are creating a trade here and this trade creation happens when there are much efficient member of a customs, they tend to sell their goods to the less efficient member. The more efficient is selling to the less efficient member. So that's how there is a trade creation within the same entity here. So that's what it is, creating a better allocation of the resources here as such. So next we see the trade diversion here. So, which is this trade diversion actually takes place within the less efficient members of the union, because they will take advantage of the situation because they do not have something, so they take advantage of that situation so that they can sell those products, more products within that union there. So what are the disadvantages here are the loss of economic sovereignty, because in the custom union, this individual member states, they are actually not allowed to have the negotiations with their own deeds. So that's what they are losing their economic sovereignty here. And next is the distribution of tariff revenues. Sometimes what happens, this could not be a fair share of the tariffs. And between this distribution of those countries in the same custom unions here. Next is the complexity of the tariff rate here. What happens? It is applicable, this tariff rate is actually applicable to the another common problem. This is one of the most common problem that has been faced by the custom unions here, because this the process it being so costly, that has been a time consuming one. So that has been establishing a common problem for this custom unions here. Next, we have the common market here. So, what is common market? It's nothing but a group that is been formed by the several countries through an agreement here, where the each state actually it adopts a external tariff here. Again, the again the tax here, tariff. So, along with this, member states they also practice this free trade here, and they also have this within some few countries. They will have a free movement of this capital and also the labor in their common markets here. So, this agreement is regarding because to make an object of improving the economic benefits to all those member states that are there in this common market here. So this includes whatever the barriers that are including in the quotas and in the tariffs, they have to export or relating to the exporting and importing of the goods here and the services that has to be removed, that will be removed in this common market here. The examples are Mercosur, an economic and political bloc that has been compromising with the Argentina and the Brazil and Paraguay and the Uruguay and the Venezuela. So next is the East African Common Market here and the West African Common Market there. So what are the benefits of this common market are, there is a free movement of people, goods, services and capital, because you are forming within your country, within few countries, and you are having a common tariff here. So that's what it is to be treated as a single market here. You are going with a common agenda and it is treated as a single market, and as such, there is a free movement of these factors of production across all those national borders without any obstacles here. Next, we have the efficiency in production, because these factors of production have been allocated so much efficiently and they have put up with the correct one, that is been resulting for the economic growth of that common market. So what are these disadvantages here are the it is less competitive and that is putting a disadvantage here, because um, they cannot provide any kind of subsidies or protection for those domestic country for their own for the domestic industry here. And there is a trade diversion, because when this efficient non-members that have been crowded out of this market common market, then there will be a trade diversion that can take place. You can easily go to that efficient non-member state there. So there will be witnessing the lower wages here, and it can also face a influx of migration of these factors of production, because that is efficient, that non-member state is efficient in providing a few things. So where there will be supply that is overtaking the demand here. Next we have the economic union. So this economic union is also a kind of trade bloc here, which is a combination of what of the customs and custom unions that has a common market here. So the members of such economic grouping, they actually have this common policies here, and on that freedom of movement of this goods and services, product regulation, the factors of production, that is the factors of production are nothing but the labor and the capital, which they have the common external trade policy here. So when this economic union is also unifying the currency here, and it is becoming the economic and the monetary union as such, because it's been a unifying the currency among its domain, among its place here. So the main objective of this establishing this economic union is not only to enhance the economic efficiency, but also it is establishing a good political and the cultural bonds among those member states here. So examples are the Central American Common Market, the European Union, the Eurasian Economic Union, and the Gulf Cooperation Council, which is called as GCC. What are its advantages? Within this economic union, we have investments. As such, you are a part of this economic union. It's been one of the kind of trade block here. It is making this stable financial situation because it is leading for a lot of funds for the investments in the underdeveloped and also in the weaker economies here. Next, we have the exchange of technology, product, and the people here. So what happens? The economic union, it leads to the barrier of this free exchange of goods, technologies among those member states here. And we have the taxes. So it helps, this economic union actually helps in lowering the prices of the member states here, which is leading for the reduction of the duty tax, and hence it is providing or it is facilitating the imports and exports with the easier. So, what are the disadvantages? We have political, economic, and the cultural. So, in the political sense, we see that there is standardization. European Union actually demands for the standardization of the regulations, whatever within its area. So every country here is not treated as an equal partner here. So what happens when every country is not treated as equal here? They try to another country try to dominate, and another country, when it is dominating, it try to take control over the other countries as such. So in the economic sense, they can lead to the loss of economic independence here, because this member states will unable to give priority to the goods for their own country only. Next, it can also brain drain, because the better skilled people and the well educated people leave the country because they have the better opportunities in the economic union here. As such, that has happened with the India also, where there is a draining of the people who are migrating from India to the another countries because of the better opportunities. Next, we have the political union. So this political union is a kind of a state which is resulting for a small states here coming together, and this is resulting for a small states. So this process of creating a big state from a group of smaller state is called a unification. Now you see small states are forming a big state here, and which is called as a unification. So this individual states in this political union, they actually share a central government, and also the union here gets this international recognition as a single political entity here. So this can be brought up into many forms, that is called as incorporating union, federal or the confederal union, federative annexation, or the mixed unions here. Okay, for example, in the incorporating union, they actually create new states, that is been done by dissolving the entirely the already previous states into a new state here. For example, we have Great Britain, which was created by the Acts of Union and the 1707 between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland here. Next, we have incorporative annexation, which is like it is a state or a group of states that have been dissolved and they have been united. This group of states have been united into an existing state where there will be a legal existence that still continues here. So it is the annexation. It is actually done by sometimes. It can also happen voluntarily as such. For example, we have Kingdom of England, where it has annexed the Principle of Wales in the year 1535 and the 1542 under the two laws of the laws of Wales Acts here. Next, we have the federal or the confederal union here. In this thing, we tend to see the states, they themselves come and they form a new federal authority. However, there will be a existence that will be continuing, and this federal state is recognized as an international law, although they have been federated and have their own domestic law also. For example, we have confederal unions like Canada 1860, India 1950, and the United States of America 1789 here. Next, we have federative annexation. In this unitary state, it turns into a federated a unit. And here, what happens? This will be the former, the previous one will be continuing into as a legal existence only, and it is termed as a federal annexation. For example, we have Prince Edward Island, British Columbia, Newfoundland, and annexed into Canada. So, likewise, we also have Texas, Vermont, California. These all have been annexed by the United States of America here. Next, we have mixed unions. So, what are these mixed unions? Nothing but a method where the political union takes place through the different processes. For example, we have unification of Italy as it is a mixture of unions here. Okay, so let us see the advantages. One such advantages here is the political union. Actually, it is preventing wars because it is creating interdependency and it keeps peace between those nations, and it is raising the standard of living amongst its citizens here. Next advantage we have tend to see maintains expenses on the armies, and that will come down considerably here. Next, we have this, it strengthens the member economies through the reduction or the removal of the tariffs. Okay, next we tend to see this political union. Actually, this political union allows the free movement of the citizens here among those member countries. And it also gives the less importance for the boundaries, and it also eliminates the need for border control as such because it is allowing free movement of citizens among those member countries here. And also it gives the movement of people spreading from different cultures as such because you are moving freely from one place to the another, and there you are spreading the different cultures and the people, and they are allowing for the work opportunities along with those sense that they are belonging to that union here. And this political union, it helps to protect each other, and in also same time it also creates a strong defense in case of there is an aggression that happens from the outsiders. What are the disadvantages? It actually this political union, it actually decreases the importance of nations because as such there are a number of nations they are forming into unifying, they tend to lose their identity here, and they lose their independence as such because you are forming a unity here. This also union is result in the cultural hybridization, which is leading for the one nation's unique culture. See now, India has a one culture and another country has another culture. So as such, when there is a cultural hybridization, when this political union forms, what happens? The number of nations come into, and this is resulting for the cultural hybridization, which is leading for the destruction of one's nation's unique culture here. So these laws and regulations of this political union also, it do not fit in country's situation perfectly also. Because one country's laws might be different to the another, may not fit also. So this political union can sometimes, it is leading for the suppression of some member states within this union also. And these political unions can be also undemocratic, and they'll restrict the sovereignty of the individual nations. Next, we'll see the North-South dialogue. So, North-South in general sense, it refers to the directions here. Okay, so when we tend to see this North and South, it is the two divisions of the countries of the world, basically on the divisions on social, political, cultural, economic, and the general development. So this term North is actually referring to the world's richest industrialized and the non-communist countries of the world. Like we have North at the United States, Australia, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, and the countries of the Western Europe also, where these countries have the high per capita income. On the other hand, we have the South, which is referring to the new um, third world countries or the developing countries. So the what happens? This is making a distinction between the developing and the developing countries of the third world. This is quite. This has been visible after the Second World War here. So this North-South dialogue actually it is referring to the discussions that have been conducted at the various the summits, conferences, and the negotiations that they do, the discussions and the meetings that they go beyond the countries or between the countries and South with an intention so that they can use the programs and they can have agreements for addressing the inequalities between the two development blocks here. So what happens? This in the North-South dialogue, what happened? The discussions that were held at this United Security Council, it actually they go with the issues and the summits of this meetings of the G8 countries. We have G7 countries, we have G8 countries, we have G77 countries. So, and the conferences of this non-alignment, they actually go for such dialogues where all of these countries of G8 and the developing countries, they actually held those talks of solving problems or whatever the problems that are facing within the developing countries or in the South in general here. So, objectives of this North-South dialogue here. We have issues that have been related to the assistance, issues related to trade, issues related to industrialization and the technology here. So, these are the objectives that have been said by the North-South dialogue. In the North-South dialogue, there is a gap. The gap that is between the North, which is the developed countries, and the South, which is the developing countries, that has been over a period of time that has grown and that has witnessed this developed countries and the developing countries that has failed to witness any improvement in their economies here. So what happened? The developing countries, it has actually gave for the order of new international economic order here. And this new international economic order, it was established after this Second World War. So the instruments of this new international economic order are like the IMF, which is the International Bank for um, IMF, International Monetary Fund, General Agreement on the Tariffs and the Trade, GATT, and the International Bank for Reconstruction Development, World Bank, which is called as World Bank or the IBRD. They were in favor of the developing countries and they were doing so much harm to the developing countries here. So what happened? This Bretton Woods structure that was actually which was created after the Second World War, it acted to be the disadvantage for the developing countries because it has treated these developing countries on the equal footing with the developed countries because developing countries are different and the developed countries are different, whereas this Bretton Woods were treating both of them equal in spite of they were not equal on the economic terms here. So without taking such things into the cognizance here towards the specific needs of these developing countries, so what happened? This international economic order had made this economic inequalities, perpetuated the economic inequalities that already been existing, and it has even sometimes it has also been exacerbated them. And this World Bank, more interestingly, it was focused on providing the relief to the war-torn developed countries. Wherever there was a war in the developed countries, it was focused there and it took very little care and the needs of the developing countries only afterwards. So, this developing countries of the world by this 1960s that they came to the conclusion that there is no improvement in their position and they could no witnessing in the existing system of the international trade here because it was going towards the uh, developed countries and the Bretton Woods structure was also treating those people developing people so much equally, and the World Bank also giving so much of prominence to the war-torn developed areas here. So, as such, what happened at various international forums of the United Nations, the developing countries, they actually raised this issue of economic inequality, and hence they have made or formed a pressure group, which is popularly known as a group of 77 here. So, this group was actually made about the necessary structural changes that should be there in the economic relations between the developed and the developing countries, and this could also has to promote the cooperation between the developing and the developed countries here. So responding to such growing demands of this developing and the for a better deal, what happened in 1964? They created the United Nations Conference of Trade and Development, which is called as UNCTAD, as an agency which was working under the aegis of this General Assembly of the United Nations here. So this agency has established for the tariff favorable, it should be the tariff should be favorable to the developing countries, and they must increase the trade within them. And the developed countries also, they have assured to the developing countries so that they can work in the direction in a particular way, so that they can take into consideration the necessity, and they can lead help for the developing countries, and also they can be um, between the developed and the developing countries. And as such, there have been need for a diversified and the balanced organic growth of the world here. And we tend to see there was a call for new economic order here, where developments were in progress. The United Nations General Assembly were in progress. In from the 1974 April May, where it has held at the special sessions which called for the establishment of the new international economic order here. So, as such, this recognition for the creation has for the new international economic order has been acknowledged, and that was ordered, and that existing international economic order, it was not catering, it was not meeting with the requirements of the developing countries, was in fact, it was also, yeah. So it was argued that the developed countries of the north were under a moral obligation so that they could increase the flow of resources in these developing countries, and they could in- increase the promotion of those economic development, and there can be a growth here. So what happened in view of growing demand from the developing countries, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution in the 1979, which was treated as a watershed for the struggle of developing countries for the new international economic order here. So this resolution actually emphasized on conducting the global talks within the framework of the United Nations here on the matters that are relating to the raw materials, energy, trade, development, currency, and the financial questions here as such. So next we have got um at the same time, what happened? The United States, it did not also want to give a very wrong impression of its to the developing countries. So it was against the holding such talks, because uh, holding such talks could affect the expansion of those MNCs of the United States of America and the developing countries here. So as such, it culminated the Cancun Summit meeting, which was held in October 1981 here. So at this summit, conference was led in city of Cancun in Mexico in 1981, and it was attended by the representatives from the 8 developed countries and the 14 developing countries, and actually uh, it is the only North-South Summit conference in the history. And the major discussions that were there on the global negotiations, mostly here developing countries, they actually argued for the global negotiations should be conducted under the United Nations and the specialized agencies of the United Nations. Namely, this IMF and the World Bank must be responsible and answerable to the United Nations. So, however, when we see the developed countries, especially the United States, it actually opposed the resolution in the General Assembly, whereas developing countries with regard to this North-South negotiations, it actually called for the restructuring of international economic institutions, namely the IMF and the World Bank, saying that it is actually posing a threat for the independence of these institutions, and as a result, the developing countries it is not taking up for the resolution here. So that's what this not so dialogue it actually got uh, freezed in the 1984, and the multilateral institutions they have to take their decisive say because of the new problems that were contain constituting with the resources that were actually containing or perpetuating or pertaining to the matching to the growing needs of the economies of the world here. So this is what the North-South dialogue. Next, we have the South-South cooperation. So we tend to know this developing countries are called the South because developing countries are most of the developing countries are located in the southern hemisphere here. So there is a cooperation among themselves by it goes by the South-South dialogue or the South-South cooperation, and as such, as a process of cooperation within the developing countries in the political, economic, social, cultural, scientific, and technological areas, the South-South cooperation has been adopted by this non-alignment movement as the foundation principle here, so that they could achieve collective self-reliance among those developing nations of the world here. So objectives of the South-South cooperation are here are the to improve the self-reliance of the developing countries, strengthen and promote the collective self-reliance among those developing countries, create the necessary capacity so that they among those developing countries so that they can identify, analyze and solve their main development issues here. And to create new technology facilities and they could strengthen the existing one, the already existing technology, they could also strengthen in those developing countries and they could improve their capacity and adopting the new technologies. And next objective is the enabling the developing countries here so that they could achieve a greater degree of participation. So we have few basic elements here in the South-South cooperation, which it gives a common effort for the countries of the people of South so that it could unify it could be a unity and solidarity among the south and as strategy as a for a self-reliance and for the economic independence. Next element is the south. It should must drive its south cooperation and it should have the south agenda. So the south cooperation it should not be viewed as a replacement of the north-south cooperation. So, strengthening with this South-South cooperation, it should not be treated. This South-South cooperation should not be treated as a measure so that they could adjust the declining interest of the developed countries so that in the providing of those assistance to the South here. So next is the cooperation that is prevalent. The cooperation that is prevalent in the countries that is belonging the countries that are belonging to the south it should not be evaluated, it should not be analyzed, and that are should be not what's used for measuring the north south dialogue or the north south relations here. So here South-South cooperation is a kind of development agenda that is pertaining for those countries of South, which has a which is based on few objectives, few conditions, few promises, which are specific for the political and the historical context of the developing countries here, and to their needs and their expectations as such. South-South cooperation is actually founded on a very genuine, very strong, and a very broad solidarity partnership here. So this South-South cooperation is actually based on the mutual respect of one another and the mutual benefit here. South-South cooperation, it also gives promotion for the action-oriented approach towards those development challenges and that challenges which could result in strengthening the multilateralism here. South-South cooperation, it also respects the national sovereignty in sharing of responsibilities. Next, we have the South-South cooperation. It has a common pursuit of the objectives with those objectives which promotes the exchange of the best practices that they could have among those developing countries. And this sorts of cooperation, it actually stresses on giving importance of this collective self-reliance, because as a developing, as a part of developing country, as a part of collective self-reliance, it gives so much of importance on the self-reliance. Next, we have South-South cooperation. It actually seeks for the developing countries which play a more active role in the international policy and also in the decision-making processes. So next we have the mechanisms and the modalities for the promotion of the South-South cooperation that has been these workings and the structures of the South-South cooperations are actually founded for the interregional, regional, and the sub-regional and the bilateral cooperation and the integration that are along with the multilateral cooperation here. So this is what our today's topic: international integration, economic integration, international economic cooperation, and the North-South dialogue and the South-South cooperation. Thank you.